Out of all of Hypmic's characters, the most popular and beloved is Doppo, the overworked and stressed out salaryman who's ready to snap at any moment. His favorite pastimes include screaming into the void, blowing himself up to take his enemies down with him, and taking care of houseplants. There's a lot of factors contributing to Doppo's popularity, but above all else, people just find Doppo's everyday struggles relatable. And no, Japan is not okay, and it hasn't been for a long time. Parodies of salarymen and Japan's high-pressure work culture have been around since the emergence of the white-collar workers themselves. Even the rapper part of Doppo's character isn't unique, where the subgenre of salaryman rap had already made its mark on Japan's hip-hop industry long before Hypnosis Mic came along. And Doppo is very much an homage to that. But does Hypmic's iteration on the Shachiku character manage to cut a little deeper than most? And what happens when you take a cliché symbol of Japanese conformity and place it on a team themed around Christian ideology? Doppo's quote, "The real world is much smaller than the imaginary," is from Friedrich Nietzsche's book, The Dawn of Day. Nietzsche spent his career criticizing Christianity and its restrictive social expectations, many of which parallel Japanese culture. Both have a strong emphasis on self-sacrifice for the greater good and atoning for sins, even on occasions when said sins might be questionable at best. Out of context, Doppo's quote seems motivational, meaning something like, "the possibilities are endless," or "you can do anything you set your mind to." But in the context of Nietzsche's writing, it's actually conveying something very different. Nietzsche argues that religious thought causes extrapolations beyond reality. The divine judgment we anticipate for our bad deeds is baseless, and that stepping out of line isn't as catastrophic as the authority figures in the church might want you to believe. But thanks to the paranoia brought on from the threat of an omniscient authority, we often imagine worse consequences for our actions than what's even within the realm of possibility. Doppo puts up with constant berating from his boss for fear of being fired, losing his livelihood, and becoming a social outcast as a result. He believes that if he doesn't act like a doormat at work, it could domino into his whole life being ruined. Doppo lives in constant anticipation of his next scolding, thus putting him on edge all the time and eroding his own self-esteem. This is what feeds his habit of randomly apologizing, which acts as both a parody of Japanese culturalisms and an expression of Doppo's desire to be forgiven for all of his sins, imaginary or otherwise. In Doppo's case, his quote isn't a creed for his character. It's a description of how Doppo falls victim to his own anxieties. In any system of morals, sin is followed by punishment, and so by the logic of cause and effect, when Doppo feels as though he's being punished, he believes it means he must have committed a sin. Doppo thinks the universe is simply giving him what he deserves. He blames himself for everything from how his boss treats him to rainy forecasts. Every bad thing outside of his control is the result of a personal failure being karmically punished, rather than unrelated instances that only happen to correlate. Under this mindset, suffering itself becomes proof of ill deeds, and these deeds must be atoned for under a system where the one at fault is the one who committed them. Doppo's anxiety isn't unfounded. Anyone who's experienced a Japanese workplace can tell you all about the faux pas one can commit that may seem laughable to outsiders. Things as simple as refusing to put in overtime can result in serious social scorn or even demotion. Doppo is specifically a victim of Zangyo, which is the source of his sleep deprivation. His stress from overwork has manifested into chronic insomnia and nightmares. He now relies on medical intervention to help him calm his nerves and get to sleep. When his hypnosis speaker is activated, it rains down paperwork and pills, which nicely sums up Doppo's daily life. Doppo begs for relief from his exhaustion in his first solo, Tigridia, which is all about how he wants to be laid to rest. Despite its depressing motif, Doppo's first solo is romantic and lyrical, in a possible nod to the naturalist poet Kunikita Doppo. The song makes use of Japan's rich history of flower language, where Tigridias represent a cry for help. The flower only blooms for a single day, symbolizing a short and futile existence. Since the song's debut, fans have used the flower to represent Doppo himself, in the same way a yellow rose is used to represent Hifumi. Even before Matenro's first CD, Doppo's character already contained a subtle cry for help. His last name includes the kanji for canon, the Buddha Vesta of mercy, who, not unlike Jesus, is a figure of peace and healing, garbed in white robes, and is believed to bring relief to the suffering of those who pray for it. Her statues can be found all around Japan, usually by the ocean for the intent of protecting fishermen. Fishing! Thanks to Doppo's quote being sourced from Nietzsche, the poster child for nihilism, Doppo has lyrics where he specifically labels himself a nihilist. But this feels like a surface-level assumption on the part of some of the songwriters, where Doppo's behavior doesn't seem to align with nihilism at all. If Doppo truly embraced nihilism, rather than burning out at his company job in the name of retaining the fabric of society, he'd be living carefree and homeless like Dice, the very kind of social outcast Doppo's so scared of becoming. Compared to Dice, Doppo is shackled to his commitments, including his role on Jakurai's team, which is something Dice frequently taunts Doppo about in their matchups. Despite Doppo subjecting himself to both of their whims, the difference between Doppo's boss and Jakurai is more than just their potential for hair growth. Jakurai is someone Doppo follows out of his own free will rather than obligation. Doppo has immense respect for Jakurai and his luscious flowing locks, because Jakurai has helped remedy Doppo's insomnia, and he's the one that consistently pulls Doppo out of his habit of negative spiraling. So while from the outside it may seem like a HIPAA violation for Jakurai to recruit a patient for his rap battle team, from Doppo's perspective, Jakurai represents the savior he's been crying out for, and thus he devotes himself to becoming a loyal follower to Hypmic's representative pacifist. But pacifism can operate differently depending on the amount of status and power one has. Jakurai is able to choose pacifism because he has the ability to fight in other ways. But for someone lower on the social ladder like Doppo, following Jakurai's pacifist model doesn't benefit him in the same way, and Doppo ends up taking on more abuse than he can handle, further chipping away at his self-worth. This shapes Doppo's personality a little differently in each part of the franchise. In ARB, his inability to say no gets him pushed around. In the stage musicals, his nervousness overwhelms him, and he comes off as more spastic and jumpy. And in the anime, his stress melts him into an absolute wimp. But no matter his iteration, Doppo's core remains the same. Despite struggling under immense pressure, Doppo remains absolutely loyal to Matenro because his teammates are the only beacon of light in the void. And he'll do what he feels is within his meager power to repay them, even if it means sacrificing himself. And it's that lack of self-preservation that aligns Doppo with nihilism, where he struggles to assign value to his own existence. In sharp contrast to his dreary first solo, Doppo's second solo, Black and White, is a high-tension tantrum about his daily work grind and Japan's infamous black companies that are known for exploiting their workers beyond the brink of death. The song's title also nicely illustrates how, just like everybody else in Matenro, Doppo has two sides to his personality. When under enough pressure, Doppo snaps from timid doormat to manic psycho. When Doppo is pushed too far, he's finally able to shake off his anxieties, resulting in his raps becoming more powerful and confident at the cost of losing all control. The mercy he begged for in Tigridia is realized in his rap ability, a self-destruct move that renders him unconscious. In the manga's narrative, Doppo's ability was key to Matenro winning the first DRB, and in his champion verse, he acknowledges the lapse of self-control being the trade-off for his boost in power. If Doppo hadn't sacrificed himself in the finals, his team may not have won. But Berserker isn't a heroic last resort. It's a materialization of Doppo's self-hatred for all the times he's felt powerless. In the same book Doppo's quote is taken from, Nietzsche cautioned against self-martyrdom, deeming it to be suffering for suffering's sake, with no greater good guaranteed to come from it. It doesn't matter if Doppo blows himself up unless highly specific conditions are met. Otherwise, he's just putting his team at a disadvantage by having them be down one member. The kanji that make up Doppo's first name roughly mean walking alone, and Doppo's lyrics frequently play off of this, where he continuously expresses how isolated he feels in his struggles. But in his third and most recent solo, Andante, Doppo says he no longer wants to walk alone. He's found relief from his Sisyphean routine in his teammates, and has faith that they'll always be there for him. Doppo reaches a breakthrough when he realizes the people close to him are more important than any job. A cliché lesson that's par for the course for any workaholic in fiction, but still an important one for Doppo's character development. After spending so much time wishing for someone to swoop in and save him, he's the one that steps up and saves his teammates when it's their time of need. Even though Doppo's anxieties make him feel insignificant, his character has struck a chord with innumerable fans, and the level of empathy he evokes shows that he's much more than a simple parody or combination of tropes. Doppo's relatability is a testament to how human his struggles are, and a reminder that sometimes, even though it may not seem it, we're never walking this path alone.